So there's a certain kind of family system where the family functions through denial and dissociation. This happens a lot when there's some kind of familial violence happening, some kind of abuse within the home, and there's an unspoken family rule that you're not allowed to acknowledge it, you're not allowed to talk about it. Everyone just has to dissociate from reality in order to keep moving along. And there will be one person within the family system, often the person who's most directly experiencing the abuse, who will start to be self-destructive, who will kind of like go crazy according to the other people in the family. And maybe this person struggles with substance use, eating disorders, self-harm, they become suicidal, they end up being hospitalized, like they have these kinds of big and loud mental health problems, and they kind of become like the scapegoat in the family, like, oh, this person has all of these serious problems. But really what that person is doing is they are responding to the truth of what's happening within the family. They are finding some kind of outlet to acknowledge the reality of the abuse. It's like you can't cope with dissociating from reality anymore. And so because no one around you is willing to acknowledge reality or deal with what's happening in the family, you have to find a way to express like the magnitude of what's going on. And so that comes out in these self-destructive behaviors. And often these people end up being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and they're made to feel like they're crazy. And what I often tell people that are in this situation is like, hey, your response was actually the most coherent, the most sensible to what was happening. There was abuse happening in this home. Someone needed to have a big response to it, and instead everyone dissociated, everyone was in denial, everyone ignored it and pretended that it wasn't happening. And so really these self-destructive behaviors are a way of saying like something bad is happening here, and I cannot pretend that everything is okay, and I cannot continue to like dissociate from the reality of what's happening in my home. Perhaps that self-destructive person's response is actually the most healthy response to have to abuse rather than dissociating from it. Unfortunately, because no one will acknowledge reality with them, they end up having to express the distress and the trauma that's happening in these different like self-destructive patterns that we see. When someone has like a mental health crisis within this kind of family system, they become, the target of the attention, when really their behavior is like a signal that there's a deeper crisis happening that's being ignored by everybody. This kind of behavior, this kind of crisis is a normal, understandable response to being in a family where no one will accept that abuse is happening.